Hello, everybody. Welcome to another investigator guide for new players for Arkham Horror, the card game. Today we're going to be talking about Tony Morgan, the bounty hunter. If this is your first time seeing one of these videos, we build a deck. Travis and Bryn build a deck, and I just make the slides. Where it builds with entirely the core set and the cycle in which this investigator came from. We build it with 2 copies of the core set. If you only have one, we recommend you pick up another one or proxy the cards you don't have. It will help you win more, and winning more is good. Last but not least, there is something you might have heard of called the reserve list. Not the reserve list. What the heck?
The reserve list is a problem
from
a different game.
Yeah, the taboo list, where there are some cards that are changed or modified or nerfed or yada yada yada. We recommend that you ignore them for your first few playthroughs of the game, just to play with the cards as printed. Yeah, Travis or Bryn, why don't you talk about Tony Morgan's ability and all that stuff while I go call a doctor to get my brain checked.
Okay, so Tony Morgan. Our unique effect is that we start the game with bounty contracts in play, and we can take an extra action that is used to either engage or fight an enemy that has a bounty token on it. The bounty contracts start with a number of bounties on it. I think it's 6.
Yep.
I can't read it. But as a reaction effect, when an enemy is spawned, you may move 1 to 3 bounties from the bounty contract onto that enemy. Then, when you defeat an enemy with bounty on it, you get to move those bounties into your resource pool as resources, or money, as we usually call them.
Yeah.
And this is fairly central to the rest of his stuff. He does have some neat deck building to look at, where you get to play green cards, all of them, neutral cards, all of them, because nobody gets to play limited neutral cards yet. And then you get to pick one of not magic, like blue, red, or yellow, and play level 0 to 1 events or skills from your chosen color.
For this deck, we chose blue because you want to shoot the monsters, and blue's good at that.
Yeah, and we will be discussing some options if you do want to do the other ones, but we're going to be talking about the blue side in detail. Because as you can see from Tony's stats, it's really nice when you have a 5 in something, because it basically says, do this, do that, and that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
What's special about his 38 long Colts? So he has 2 of them. That's the first thing that's special.
Yeah, that is. So the 38 long Colt, you get 2 of them in your deck. They cost 3. They give you an extra. They give you 3 ammo. Use an ammo per fight. The fight action gives you an extra damage and +1 punch for each bounty on the target. So it can be, that's like where the 1 to 3 bounties kind of comes in, where like, you know, a tough enemy shows up and you're like, yeah, let's put 3 bounties on him so I can kill him with my Colt. If you kill an enemy with your Colt that had a bounty on it, you get to add a bounty back onto the bounty contracts, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
It also has a reaction effect where when you play one of them, if the other one is in your hand, you can put it into play. However, I view this as largely a trap. You generally don't want both weapons that you are currently using to be long Colts, because most of the time you want to be using your long Colt for the last shot, and using your other weapon to grind the enemy down so that you can shoot it with the long Colt and get your bounty back.
That's fair. It's very fair. I never even thought of that. That's great. Yeah. His weakness is a deep one that spawns the farthest from you, and it enters play with a doom and a bounty from the token pool. So you basically get a free action to engage him because he does have aloof, and then you just got to kill him. It's just a dude you got to kill. On big maps, this could be a little bit of a problem, especially with that 1 doom on him. But also, someone else can kill him as well if you do have like a support who can also fight with the group as well.
Yeah, it is worth noting that if somebody else kills something with a bounty contract on it, you don't get to collect because, you know, you didn't bring him in.
Yeah, that's not how bounties work.
It's not how bounties work. Also, this Tony's Quarry is probably one of the weakest unique weaknesses in the game. Sometimes he shows up and Doom's going to tick over anyway, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're just like, very good. I will ignore you for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this guy's just gonna sit over here
Yeah.
under the docks.
Like, he's literally aloof. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have Doom on him, he does nothing. Sometimes he's even better than that. Sometimes he takes up space in a location so it's no longer empty.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, sometimes he's actually kind of good.
Cool. Let's start talking about the deck. We're going to talk about all the cards from the core set briefly first. Then we'll get into the fancy other options besides the Guardian class for Tony's subclass. 41 Derringer. It's another gun that shoots. Anyone else have anything to say about that? It's
not really. It's just a tool for grinding guys down so you can kill them with the long colts.
This is also probably like Tony's. Oh, sorry, Travis.
As I was going to say, it's particularly good in Tony compared to other green investigators because you're more likely to succeed by 2 or more with your 5-punch, whereas if you don't succeed by 2 or more, this thing's kind of garbage.
Yeah, definitely. I always love seeing a knife. When I put this card in, I was like, yes, knife! Just another way to grind down monsters and get the final kill with your Colts. Leo DeLuca's here because, as Bryn says, 33% more turn is always good.
Yeah, it is.
And unlike other green goons, you don't need like the punch boost because you got 5.
Yeah. Dodge helps you not take damage from enemies if you can't kill them in time. You do have 5 brain, which is pretty low, right? Like that's a bit spooky scary. Yeah. Sorry, Travis?
It's about as low as it gets.
Yeah, it's about as low as it gets. It's true. So being able to not take brain damage from an enemy who has it is nice.
Also, compared to most like sort of monster fire builds, this deck hardly has any soak with only the 2 Leo DeLucas that can take damage for you.
Yeah. Elusive is a fantastic card that lets you move pretty much anywhere on the map. If there is like a spot like that you need to get to your quarry on the other side of the map, you can move into an adjacent space, move in, then start killing them. But it also just lets you it does so much. It lets you disengage from enemies and move anywhere. It's very powerful. Emergency Cash gives you resources to play your cards, and then you'll get more resources from your bounties as well. Evidence. You're going to be defeating monsters. That's your goal here as Tony Morgan. And when you defeat monsters, you get to gain a clue. So you get to not only defeat an enemy, but you also get to progress the game as well. And it feels great to help your team. Then there's Vicious Blow, which just deals more damage when you attack to kill those big monsters.
I love when we're going over these cards and we get something like Emergency Cash, and it's just like, how can I say what it does but differently?
Yeah.
The 5 words that are on it.
Speaking of a card we always talk about, Travis, why don't you talk why Guts is good?
Okay. So Guts gives you +2 brain to a skill test, which boosts Tony Morgan's up to 4. Wow, he's only got 2. That's not great. This is good because most of the time when the game attacks you, it's going to be through brain, with occasionally through foot, but mostly brain. So playing Guts to make yourself not throw away your assets or take brain damage or whatever the game's throwing at you is good.
It also replaces itself if you're successful, which you hope to be. Manual Dexterity also will help you evade monsters if you're not going to evade monsters. This is for the deck or helping your friends as well. It's kind of like it's your foot Guts for Tony because he also has 2 in his foot.
Yeah, you're like pretty squishy to the deck.
Yeah. Overpower.
There's lots of these card draw skills in here, partially because you're so dependent on having weapons.
Yeah.
And you only have 5 of them. There's no you can't play Tetsuo Mori, and there's no prepared for the worst allegatory available to you. So you need a way to consistently find weapons, and this helps with that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you have access to Dunwich, prepared for the worst over some of these is a good choice.
Good choice.
Overpower and Perception are your active skills that you can boost up and draw cards to replace them, and then also, as Travis said, dig out your weapons. And then there's Unexpected Courage, which helps any stat but doesn't replace itself. Wow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it is worth noting that we've got 3 in book. So committing a skill to it puts us up to 5, which is pretty respectable.
Yeah, you could definitely grab some clues in the downtime.
Yeah, with all the extra actions you get to take,
Bryn, Crystallizer of Dreams.
Jellyfish egg.
As we call it, the Jellyfish egg. What does this card do?
So when you play this card, you have to go through your bonded cards and grab
Oh, I didn't put that card in.
the Guardian of the Crystallizer, who is a enemy with 3s in its stats, enters play exhausted, and does one of each type of damage when it attacks you. You shuffle that into your deck. If you draw it, that sucks, but don't draw it. The Crystallizer itself, as a reaction effect, when you are playing an event, instead of putting it into your discard pile, you can attach it to the Crystallizer. It says face down, but I don't think this is really important, because all it lets you do from there is commit them to skill tests as though they were in your hand. Mm-hmm. So face down just kind of means like a lot more looking at a pile of cards that isn't your hand. But it lets us use things like evidence as though it were perception, or elusive to help us try and get over a test that we're not very good at, or first watch for the same thing. Just more value out of your events.
Yeah. You also, when the jellyfish spawns, you can say, I have a bounty on this guy, right?
Yeah. You can put a bounty on him and then just, kill him.
Kill him and then get your money back that you paid for the card.
Yeah.
That's how you can just make your own bounties. What does First Watch do?
First Watch is so during the Mythos phase, instead of drawing cards from the deck, you play First Watch, and you get to look at the top X, where X is the number of players. Then you have to deal one out to each player, or you can deal as many as you want to yourself until they've all been dealt. So you get to just basically throw this out to be like, well, the monsters are showing up on MySpace, so I don't even have to chase them down.
Yeah. And you're taking the brain action, the brain test.
And other people are taking the tests where you might take horror, and you're not very good at that.
Yeah. Like a Tony Morgan with First Watch, and then like you handle this one, is like, that's pretty good defense against the Mythos deck. But of course, you handle this one's not in this cycle. Daring is a very good skill for if you want to fight, underline, or evade enemies, because it gives them retaliate and alert, but this will make you attack at 8, so assuming you're using no other weapons, and you probably should use your weapons for combat. And then you also get to draw a card after the test ends if you pass or fail. So really strong skill. That gives you a lot of power for one card.
Yeah, it's pretty solid also with like the Derringer, because you have to succeed by 2 or more to get the extra damage on it.
Yeah.
If you're not succeeding by 2 or more when you've got +2 from the Derringer and +3 from Daring, like, what are you doing?
That puts you at 10. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah. All right. We're going to now quickly talk about some of the other colors that you can build. We're not going to recommend like what to take out with this, just some other options. I have some notes here that are also from Travis's thing in the write-up that you can find in the Arkham DB link in the description below. There is Lucky, which just means you don't fail tests as often, which is super sweet. Look what I found is if you fail by 2 or less, which is not too hard when you have 3 book, you get to also discover 2 clues of your location, and with the Jellyfish egg, it becomes a perception that doesn't draw a card after. Flashlight helps you investigate locations. Of this note, Travis also says that you probably want an additional knife in this build as well. So that's just also there. You can go 2 of knife, 1 of flashlight with this. And then also hard knocks, because you're going to be spending your resources. It gives you something to spend your money on. Some fists and some foot, especially.
Yeah. These are
kind of designed as like packages for because you'll notice that there's exactly 10 blue cards in here, which is the most you can play, so you would just actually swap out the blue cards for like these ones.
The hard knocks type cards, and the only one you're allowed to play is hard knocks because the way your deck works. They're pretty good. They're pretty good for a Tony, because it looks like your deck is really expensive, but you also get a lot of money for kind of just playing the game.
Yeah. And then from from his actual cycle, there's Scrounge for supplies, which chooses any level 0 card in your discard pile, and you put it in your hand. It doesn't have to be Survivor. It can be one of your green cards as well, which is pretty sweet.
Or a knife.
Exactly. You throw it at a guy and then pull it out of the corpse and say, bounty collected, and then everyone at the table groans and is like, Justin, what's wrong with you?
Why are you like this?
Travis, why don't you take the secret cards?
Well, deduction is good for when you want to get the clues because you got to get more book, and then it gives you 2 clues instead of 1. Working a hunch is good because working a hunch is really good for the clue build because it just gets you a clue, and then it goes into your crystallizer dreams, and then it gives you +2 books, so it kind of gets you another clue.
Heck yeah.
And then we've got flashlight, which is flashlight. It's
and then from the cycle, we got practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect, which is really good with practice skills as it has to be. You can see in your little thingy that there's a deck list up here. I believe perception and overpower are both practiced.
Yes, sir.
As is deduction. And then we've got followed, which is like
made for Tony.
Yeah, kind of. So you can like shoot up a guy a little bit and then play followed and get some clues, and then you can finish shooting them with your long colt.
Like that's pretty nice. So the blue Guardian Tony Morgan is like the active monster killer, and then the red and the yellow one especially is like that perfect support class where you need like that person who can like kill monsters but also progress the game. And then the red is just like kind of in between, but more so still kind of leaning more towards killing monsters.
Yeah, the red splash is my personal choice because there are a lot of very powerful defensive options in red that are not assets. Like a lot of very powerful defensive events and skill cards.
Yeah, Tony definitely cracks open
having a bigger collection though.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
This is true.
Yeah,
I think
Tony
if you
really cracks open
just
when you
have this
have
cycle,
everything.
Yeah. If you just have this cycle and like core, blue is probably the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Vicious blow is a real tough thing to pass up.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about upgrades. Sir, first from the core, we got upgraded Leo DeLuca. He's a bit cheaper. Wow. You can play him first turn and then get an additional... It's like you never played him, and you just lost 5 resources. What a deal. Hot Streak gives you resources, which is a nice option you have. And then there's Sure Gamble, which is... it's such a fun card that we don't play as much anymore because there's just...
It's such a good card.
Pardon?
Yeah.
It's such a good card. It's like especially good for those... I think a big part of that is because Brain usually plays green characters, and Brain doesn't play the decks that this is good in, because those are like the big gambler decks and the 16 by X decks, because Brain just draws the Alpha and then he's like, huh.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Looks at Sure Gamble and he's like,
why did I pay green experience for this trash?
Yeah.
No, that's like the reason I give on the face of it. The secret reason that I don't play Sure Gamble anymore is because you can't put it into the crystallizer.
That is true. But it's a great card that turns...
The crystallizer just doesn't do anything?
Yeah, you can put it in, but you can never get it out again.
Wow.
Sure Gamble just turns a positive into a negative, which is always a good thing.
It's pretty huge.
Sorry, negative into a positive, once again.
Yeah.
Gotta get that brain.
Even if it's on the symbols. So if you have a skull that's a -3 in that scenario, Sure Gamble can turn it into a +3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can't succeed your test with a +3...
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What
Don't make
happened?
that test.
Yeah.
Extra ammunition gives you more ammunition for your guns, specifically like your long colts. Being able to kill enemies forever to get more bounties seems sweet.
Yes. More bullets for the long colts is one of the most valuable things you can do.
Bryn, why don't you talk about all these exciting, expensive, costing experience green cards from the Dream Eater cycle?
Yeah, so we've got, first up, Delilah O'Rourke, who gives us +1 punch and +1 foot. The +1 foot is not so relevant to us, but it's nice. +1 punch is pretty sweet. As a lightning bolt, you can spend resources equal to, I believe it's an enemy's fight value, to deal a damage to them, and then if they're exhausted, you deal 2 instead. She soaks 3 and 2 for 3 resources, which is also pretty nice.
It's their evade value, not their fight value.
Their evade value? Okay. No, my bad.
One thing that also is just relevant for when you're playing Delilah O'Rourke, the enemies, after they fight you, they exhaust, and there's a window that you can use her to kill them, to deal 2 damage without having to like evade them actually yourself. They'll do it for you for a brief moment in the game.
Yeah, and then like if you've got a dodge, you don't even have to take damage for it. It's just pretty cool. Even if not, like just spending to deal 1 damage to like a 3 hit point enemy, so you can kill it with the long cold.
It's very nice.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
We got the sawn-off shotgun, which is like super big, flashy, and sometimes really bad for one of your teammates. Sometimes.
That's why you play your Sure Gambler.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really good with Sure Gamble. So this one gets you get 2 ammo, costs 3 to put into play. It only takes up 1 hand slot, which is really important here because it means you don't have to discard whatever other weapon you had, like maybe a long colt or whatever else you had to play.
Or 2 shotguns.
Yeah, or you can just dual wield shotguns because who doesn't want to do that? You spend an ammo, fight. You don't get any bonus to the test, which is like the downside here. But instead of its standard damage, the attack deals up to 6 damage based on how much you succeed by. So like each point you succeed by does an extra damage to a minimum of 1. So it can never deal less than 1. If you succeed by 0, that would be kind of funny. If it could. But also, if the attacked enemy is engaged with another investigator and you miss, the attack deals 1 damage to that investigator for each point you failed by.
Yeah.
To a maximum of 6.
So you
haven't
could
had
just
that kind of thing happen yet.
Yeah, you could just engage the enemy and not worry about it, but where's the fun in that, right? Action efficiency is just
fun
shoot.
in that?
And then you have your stuff like your like a Delilah O'Rourke in play, a daring, an overpower, which helps you get like that nice boost to deal that major damage with the sawed-off shotgun as well.
Boost.
Yeah, we got swift reload, which is it's kind of just like a different. It's extra ammunition that doesn't take up one of our blue slots.
I just love how that card like feels like, because it's a swift reload, it's fast, right? Like it's a very satisfying like designed card. It just feels good.
Yeah,
makes you wonder why you can't just do a normal reload though.
That's a good point as well, Travis. I do agree. What does Easy Mark do, Bryn?
Easy Mark is myriad. So when you buy it for 1 XP, you get 3 of them. It costs 0 to play. You get to gain 2 resources and draw a card. This is a very solid replacement for emergency cash, particularly in this build, because unlike emergency cash, this card commits for icons. So dumping them under the crystallizer is pretty solid. And then as a reaction effect, after you've finished playing your Easy Mark, you can play another one from your hand for free.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a second one, it's still pretty much just an emergency cash. Like you're still getting that similar amount of value out of it for playing it for 0.
Yeah.
If you have a crystallizer, you're getting even more.
Yeah, and like if you have 2, like go for it, right? Like don't wait for the third one if you need the.
I wouldn't even wait for the second one if you need the stuff now.
Yeah.
But this card is quite solid.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Bryn, but if you draw an Easy Mark off your Easy Mark, you can still play it.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, because the reaction happens at the end when you're done playing it.
That's like the dream. Like you do that and you're like, yes!
It does feel pretty good.
All right, so from the Dream Eater cycle, we have Fool Me Once, which allows you to, when you fail, you know what? I don't know this card. I can't riff. Bryn, what does Fool Me Once do?
So Fool Me Once is you play it after you've finished resolving a treachery card. You take the treachery card, and instead of putting it in the game's discard pile, you attach it to the Fool Me Once. Fool Me Once sits there until somebody draws another copy of the attached card, at which point you discard the attached card and cancel the effect. So notably, this card is awesome with against Ancient Evils. And by awesome against that, I mean you had to resolve one once, but not next time.
Yeah. We also then have for the red, the Survivor and Seeker build, Brute Force is awesome in Tony. Like, Brute Force is already a very strong skill card, but it's nice to just, like, being able to deal 3 damage, then you can shoot and kill, like, a 5 health enemy with your Colts. Like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. You ever want to punch a man so hard he explodes?
Yeah. Yeah, you punch a man and money comes out. Then there is extensive research. You're going to have cards in your hand, just because you're going to have a lot of skills in this deck, and then other cards that are in there, which makes it very easy to pay an amount of money, which you're going to have a good chunk of to just discover 2 clues at your location, which as the Seeker clue support would be really nice boon for the team.
And 2 book symbols for your crystallizer.
And 2 book symbols for your crystallizer. Travis, what would you, for extensive research for a new player looking, what's like the point of money that it's like worth it to play? Like, what do they want to aim for?
I mean, like, that depends a lot on your deck. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're a yellow character, it should be 0.
Yeah. But like, let's say in this deck, in Tony Morgan, in this deck specifically.
Like, the more difficult it is for you to get clues, then the more you're willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. In green deck, I'd probably be looking at like 4 to 6. Mm-hmm. Is pretty okay for like 2 Tesla's clues.
Yeah, especially on a high shroud location. Like, go like be like, don't worry about it. I'll get these clues here. That's
Yeah, like 4 to 6 isn't. 4 is like good. 6, like, I wouldn't be excited about. I'd be just like, it's gotta happen. Mm-hmm. And realistically, you're not going to have more than like 6 cards in your head when you're playing. 6 other cards in your head when you play this, right?
Yeah. Cool.
So
that's Tony Morgan. He's a fun, powerful investigator. I liked playing in our run when Bryn played him. It was a good time, and I think this deck will do really good things just by the very nature that Tony Morgan in himself is like good. Like, his printed cards and abilities, they're strong, right? Like, there's just action.
It's really the deck building option stuff that pushes like him and Mandy into being insane, I think. Mm-hmm. I think like all the like Gloria Goldberg is also out with that, and she's like really good. I think all the investigators who have those deck building options are going to be very strong.
Definitely.
Yeah, just like the flexibility that his deck building offers you.
Yeah.
Like, you can do whatever your team needs to be done.
Yeah, for sure.
Except run away from
as long as it's a little bit
you're not a coward.
Yeah. So next week we will be talking about Mandy Thompson. So we will see you next week for our next new player guide. Thanks for watching.
Anything.
Sorry, Travis?
So the Seeker who can do anything.
Yeah, the Seeker who seeks like no one else before her. See you later, everybody.